Wonder Woman is the first solid movie to come out of the DC Cinematic Universe. While good at producing guilty pleasures, they didn't have an agreed-upon good film under their belt until now, and I think that's something we should all appreciate. DC can actually give us some Marvel-quality productions. And that's exactly the quality of movie that I think Wonder Woman was. A Marvel film. Not to say that it borrowed its themes from Marvel films or did anything that was copying, per se, from a Marvel film. But the first Captain America in particular came to mind while watching this movie for me. Not just in setting, but in plot and pace as well. Even the visual style, there was almost a gray undertone through everything that we saw on screen, at a very war-like setting. Thanks, motorcycle. I'm gonna wait for the motorcycle to leave. You'll notice that a lot of war movies do this. Now, I love Marvel, but even I know that most Marvel films aren't anything special in terms of changing the cinema landscape. Not that it needs to. They're great films regardless of the impact that they have on film culture, and I feel the same way about Wonder Woman. It was a very traditional movie, one that I feel like I've seen 100 times. This is common. Most movies you watch will be this way, variations of movies you've already watched, just with different character settings and stories. And if you're listening to this going, what the fuck is he talking about, then just ignore everything I just said. I don't want to ruin movies for you. But I'm about to say the first negative thing anyone's ever said about the film. Kind of. Wonder Woman isn't special. It's not a groundbreaking masterpiece that has set the bar for superhero films so much as it is just another good superhero film to add to the collection of already really good superhero movies. These movies that have come out in this new superhero universe era of film. And that's fine. What I'm trying to say is, don't be surprised if it doesn't even get a nod in the Oscars for any major categories or anything like that. Not that the Oscars really matter. And I've heard this before, but it's the first universe superhero movie to have a strong female lead. It's also the first superhero universe movie to have a female director, but I don't hear anyone talking about that. This film was directed by Patty Jenkins, who hadn't directed a feature-length film since 2003, and this was her directorial comeback. Gal Gadot did a great job as Wonder Woman, but I think the real round of applause goes to this wonderful director who has now laid the foundation for DC films going forward. I'm looking forward to more of her work, and I have never been this way for any other DC production since Christopher Nolan. Mostly because most of the DC films that have come out of the cinematic universe have been Zack Snyder, which I just don't agree with so many of his decisions. Just what is that? For a movie that is, like I said before, very traditional, it's probably the most tradition-breaking movie I've ever seen. And they make sure that you know this, too. There was a scene when, surrounded by enemies, spoilers, I'll put the timestamp if you haven't seen the movie. There's a scene when, surrounded by enemies, Chris Pine tells Wonder Woman to stay back, only for her to save his life and proceed to kick all the bad guys' asses. This was hilarious, and it was great for the characters' chemistry. We got to see them interact with each other and get to know each other more. We can see clearly the themes that the movie are trying to present to us. It's a woman in a man's world, and how unappreciated a woman can go in a world such as that. This is a great theme, one that I think could have been even greater if there was a touch of subtlety to it. Details we'd have to go back and watch the movie to see that would bring us to the same conclusion. There are not many of those moments in Wonder Woman, unfortunately. It is a very straightforward action movie, and there is no subtlety throughout any of these themes. They really want you to know that Wonder Woman is a strong, independent woman who don't need no man. Why is it the music cuts out right when I say the cringy stuff? What this means is there's almost no physical conflict or danger for Wonder Woman to be in. This would normally be a pretty big flaw, but the way they worked around it was very, very well done. The tension came from the world she was becoming a part of, and the preservation of that world and the characters we were introduced to, all of whom were nowhere near as powerful as Wonder Woman was. All of whom were men. Isn't that great? Again, not very subtle. One thing you need to do to make this work is you have to get us, as the audience, to care about these characters, which they did. I genuinely cared about all the characters that they introduced with the team of Wonder Woman and Chris Pine, the foreign, slick, charming guy, and the doubtful marksman. All those guys were people that I genuinely wanted to see pull through this story. The other thing you have to do is establish a real threat to everything that we care about in the film. A powerful and creative villain. Which they didn't. Another spoiler warning if you haven't seen the film, skip to this. Ares was really underwhelming and confusing. His motivations were murky, and he did things that I couldn't really see the god of war doing. I don't really understand how he died or how it really made a difference on the world. Like, if Ares is the personification of corruption and conflict in men, then how could he be killed physically? And all at once? Also, if he's dead and all conflict has stopped forever, then does that mean World War II didn't happen? And how did we get to the current DC Cinematic Universe with Batman and Superman if that was the case. This was all especially disappointing when you consider the fact that Wonder Woman had an incredible scene beforehand. After killing someone who she thought was Ares and having nothing resolved, this led to her having a huge character shift. Throughout the entire film, we didn't see very much conflict with Wonder Woman and her ability to do something. Everything that she put her mind to, she did. But at this moment, she realized that maybe she couldn't do everything that she thought she could do, that maybe she does need help, that maybe it's not just one guy, it's not just one person she can just go stab in the chest. This was such a great moment for a character like her to have. But then it was all kind of thrown down the drain when Ares did show up in the form of Remus Lupin and dies. He just died. She just killed him. And then the war ended. And what? There was a lot of potential there for a great ending. One where we could leave the theater thinking and debating this movie for months. One where I'd call my comic book friends and speculate all day with what could happen next and how everything led up to this. But they wanted an ending to wrap things up, I guess. Make way for the Justice League. The biggest problem that I had with the movie is how much better it could have been. Small things that I feel like if changed or fleshed out could have made what was already a great film even better. But honestly, pointing out the things that you think would have made it better is a testament to how good the film already was. And that's the note I would like to leave you with. Despite its flaws, Wonder Woman was a great film, especially considering the films that we will compare it to, such as Suicide Squad, Batman vs. Superman, and Man of Steel, all movies that have so much to learn, and now have the opportunity to do so because of Patty Jenkins' directorial comeback, Wonder Woman. Well, that's my review, guys. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'm wondering where they're going to go from here. Pun intended.